Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
It's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think. Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
We're back.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters. I got to push the button. That's what it takes.
Yes, push the button. Great tune by the Chemical Brothers.
Yes. Doing more of what I really love to do is hanging out in the studio. Mm-hmm. My good buddy, John Palmer.
Yes, and our good buddy, JP.
JP.
That's right.
Now that we don't have Justin to deal with anymore.
We will do shows all night.
He's like, work, work, work.
He doesn't even know we're here.
No,
we just dropped in. He's asleep in the other room.
Yeah, he doesn't. He probably thinks, we're, signing books or working.
Yeah,
whatever, dude.
Yeah, no. He's not here. We're going to do what we damn well please, which is another show. We're going 4 shows in a row, which means we've consumed 20 pints.
20 pints, yeah. 20, 25, I don't know.
Of AB, yeah.
That's the standard 5 pints a show.
5 pints a show. That's about right, yeah.
That's what you guys have been doing.
That's pretty close.
And surprisingly, you're both really skinny, which I enjoy.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
We carry all our weight.
That's what everybody tells me.
That you're not skinny?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Absolutely.
You got mean people.
Mm-hmm.
Well. Speaking of skinny people, John Blickman, he's in shape.
He is. He's maintained his
What the heck up with that guy?
Nervous geek energy? I don't know.
Yeah, that might be.
Yeah,
normally I wouldn't trust a skinny person.
Yeah,
because,
passion for brewing keeps them active.
Those skinny people, there's something going on there. They're not drinking enough, or I don't know. But Blickman, he seems like a solid guy, and I would, if I were you, listen to this show, I would go to blickmanengineering.com, Blickman with 2 N's, and send them an email. Check out all their products, send them an email, whether you're buying anything or not.
Yeah.
And
ask him why he's so skinny.
Ask him why he's so skinny. Say, hey, you look pretty fit. What the heck? Why are you so fit? What's the matter? You're not drinking enough beer? No. Send him an email and say, hey, thank you for sponsoring the show. Because you sponsor the show, I get to listen to it. Of course, unless you don't enjoy the show, then, just go away. But, if you do enjoy the show, tell him that you appreciate it, because he's paying for it, so you don't have to. And, that's really cool, because, he could do other things with his money. He could buy more food and be fatter, but, he doesn't. He's skinny because he's sponsoring this show, probably.
Right. Yeah.
So it's genuinely very nice of him, and he did that as a favor to Mr. John Palmer and myself, and the Brewing Network, and he doesn't need to do that. He just does it out of the kindness of his heart. So make sure you go back to him and show him the love as well. Send him an email. It doesn't cost you anything to send an email, and he really enjoys it. Hearing the positive response. So make sure you do that. And all those Blickman Engineering goodies, the top tier system, the Therminator, the beer gun, all that great stuff that you've heard about. Mm-hmm. You can pick that up at your local homebrew shop.
That's right.
If they don't carry it, ask them why. Just say, hey, I want to buy some Blickman stuff. And you should,
they can order it. They can order it direct from him, and he'll drop ship it to you. And
you should support your local homebrew shop. You really should.
Yep.
Because, those are the ones who add new homebrewers to the market. Those are probably who got you started. Don't forget that. That's how our business works is, making sure new homebrewers come in, and that makes it possible for you to buy geeky things like a Blickman Therminator and a Blickman beer gun or a Blickman top tier system is because, there's a lot of,
right. Your local homebrewer is going to be the one that's going to introduce you to that new hop variety.
Right.
Or that new malt that you've thought about trying.
Or when you've brewed and you're ready to pitch your yeast, you pitch your yeast and it's dead.
Yeah.
And you call that guy up and say, I know you're closing, but can you stay there a half hour late instead of going home to your family and having dinner? Can you stay there so I can come and get some yeast?
Oh, those are good phone calls. I don't miss those at all.
Right. But, those guys do. And, if you don't want that option, then don't buy from your local homebrew shop. If you do want that option, support your local homebrew shop. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Solid stuff.
That's right.
All right. Also support the Brewing Network. Good stuff in the Brewing Network store. And we're doing yet another Q&A.
Because we are listening to your emails.
Right. Yeah, send an email to Brewing Network, brewstrong at thebrewingnetwork.com, and we will get to them. I know we've been a little lax in following up on all of these. We're trying to knock out as many as we can, so we're going to do a number of Q&A shows to kind of catch up, and then we'll get back to our regular kind of progression. But
in-depth journalistic.
We want to make sure, if you bother, it's like emails you send to us individually. We answer them.
That's right.
We're not going to ignore them. It may take us weeks or a month to get to them, but we will do them because if you took the trouble to send us a question or send us an email, we're glad to respond. Absolutely. Your support is important to us. So, same thing on this show. All right. JP, what do you have for us as our first question?
This email sent to brewstrong at thebrewingnetwork.com from White Russian entitled Mystery of Missing Sugars. Hello, brewing gurus. I brewed a 1.102 OG barley wine back in June that sat in primary for 3 weeks and then in secondary on oak cubes for 5 weeks. At bottling time, the final gravity was 1019, resulting in an 11.2% ABV. I was concerned that the yeast might have crapped out by then, so I rehydrated half a packet of dry champagne yeast and added that. Yesterday, 3 months later, I opened a bottle, drank half, and decided to measure the final gravity again. I was surprised to find out that it was a 1013. It just didn't look or taste like there was contamination, and there was just a bit of carbonation. Could the champagne yeast have chewed through some extra sugars in addition to the bottling sugar? If so, why wasn't it much more carbonated?
Very good. I've got several thoughts on this, and one is... people use champagne yeast, and champagne yeast are really the wrong yeast to use for, trying to drive attenuation in a beer or a package or whatever. Champagne yeast will really consume the simpler sugars. They're really not designed to consume the, maltose and the longer chain, maltotriose and those things, right? So really what you should be using is a lager yeast.
Yes.
The lager yeast can actually consume more if you're trying to drive something down and you're trying to get more attenuation. Your champagne yeast can handle a higher alcohol percentage, but unless you're getting, Chris White told me that every yeast can handle 10% alcohol, and almost all of them can handle up to like 15% alcohol. Okay. So you can use just about any yeast. I think that the difference between, what was it, 1019 and 1013?
1019 and 1013, yeah.
And 1013, as far as carbonation goes, it's really not that much carbonation. You might think that, the carbonation really hasn't changed that much, and it may be just missing, you're thinking, it's, whatever it might be on that. The other thing is, as far as, contamination, bacteria, wild yeast, they can actually consume those things. And in a beer like that, you may not notice it. It just depends on, I'm not saying that your palate isn't developed enough for that. I may be totally wrong in this, but there are cases where somebody can't taste the difference in that. So that could also be one possibility. And one of the other most likely candidates is when you first took that gravity reading, if you took it fresh off the fermenter, what happens is there's a lot of CO2 in there, and this happens all the time. People just don't make sure that every last little bubble is off the hydrometer. Those tiny little bubbles that attach to the hydrometer, they lift the hydrometer up, and you get a higher gravity reading. And so you're thinking, well, this is 1019, and you haven't spun it and gotten all the bubbles off and totally degassed the sample.
Right.
You end up with a higher gravity reading, and then later on, maybe you end up with a lower gravity reading. So that's another possibility. I'm not saying that any of these are right or wrong, but these are all possibilities.
Yep, sounds right.
That's all you got? Is it sounds right?
Yeah, I think you covered it. I mean,
okay.
As you said, the champagne yeast is not a high sugar fermenter, a large sugar fermenter. It's simple.
Okay.
Great.
Next question.
Great. This one is from Kim. She says...
Wood?
Kim Wood.
Oh, my baby.
Very
She's
same.
hanging around.
Strike three here.
Yeah, right. She says, I added a vial of sour mix to a Saison when it was about 10:14. This was 6 months ago. I think it's about 10:08 now, but it's still not really sour, and I don't love the flavor. Should I add more bugs, give it more time? Both?
Well, it may never get there, right?
Yeah.
I think...
So more bugs isn't necessarily always the answer.
Because, I mean, if she's at 10:08 right now?
She's
dropped
10:08,
8 points.
yes.
8 points.
Yeah.
8 points should sour it up pretty good. I mean, enough to taste it in a 1016, especially a beer without a lot of residual malt character. Like a barley one, if you sour that up for 8 points, it's nothing. If you take a Saison that doesn't have a lot of other extraneous malt characters, it's mainly Pilsner malts and a couple other things. When you go ahead and sour that up, there's not a lot of crystal malts and these other things to kind of mask that sourness. You should recognize the tartness. It depends on what she added in order to sour it up in the first place, and the temperature in which she provided. I would, it may help to add more sour bugs and give it, a little warmer temperature and give it a try and see what happens. The interesting thing is if you're already getting a lot of character from the bugs, if you're getting like a bread and other kind of funky characters that you're looking for, and that's all adequate, but it's just not sour enough, I really believe that's an appropriate time to add lactic acid.
Oh, okay.
Just dose it a little bit with some lactic acid. It'll sharpen it up. You'll feel like it's got the sourness you need, but it's still got the funk. The problem with lactic acid is when you brew a beer and just add lactic acid to it, it's sour, but it doesn't taste right. It's just artificially sour. It's microwave steak versus just hitting it with the right kind of bugs and all that. And so if you got that, I would maybe just hit it with a touch of lactic. I think that's not a bad way to go.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I was thinking, if I misunderstood the question, I guess. If she was down at 10:08, then there probably wouldn't be a whole lot left to sour. If she had to add more bugs too.
You could add some simple sugars too, and then sour it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make a little mini beer and blend it.
Right. Maybe make a slurry of lactobacillus or bread or something like that, and table sugar. Get that going, then add that in, and that might do.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. CalPro in the chat, he writes, JP, I am interested in a fermentation strategy for making a braggot. Palmer said in an earlier show that too much simple sugar to malt ratio will screw up the fermentation. How do you brew a high percentage of honey into a braggot? I was interested in doing, and then I cut off his question. So basically, fermentation strategy for high percentage of honey into a braggot.
Do the beer first, get that primary fermentation going, and then add in your honey after 3-4 days of primary fermentation.
As soon as you see fermentation start to slow a little bit, that's the point to start adding your honey a little bit.
Yeah, and
daily another pound of honey or whatever. It might be.
Yeah, and a pound of honey is not very. It's like a cup. I mean, it's it's not a lot. So just pour that in the fermenter. That'll start going again. See it start to taper off. Add another pound.
Warm the temperature up.
Yeah.
Fermentation
and nutrients.
Wouldn't hurt. Although if
depends on how much honey you're planning on going. If you're talking about doing a 50-60% honey, then you probably need some nutrients. If you're 10-20% then or 30%,
no, the yeast are probably good nutrition wise off the beer wort. They're probably good. They'll probably be able to finish fermenting all that honey just on those nutrients they have stored up.
Great. All right. Anthony W. says wants to know how you guys like Better Bottles. If you finished now, Jay-Z, weren't you doing some analysis on Better Bottle versus Carboys?
Right.
He says that he finds glass Carboys self-heat more than a Better Bottle side by side during a ferment. So maybe if you do need to raise a temp on your fermentation vessel, that the Carboys are a little bit better at conducting that, or?
Well, I suppose they are, but if you insulate the vessel, I don't see any real significant difference. I mean, maybe minor changes, sure, but for me, I'm sticking with the Better Bottles. I'm using a couple of Better Bottles right now for doing a pilot brew for Heretic Brewing Company. So, I think the advantages are they're not breakable like a glass carboy is. They're breakable, but not like a carboy is. They lightweight, easily cleanable. Just a lot of little things that I like about them. So I'm sticking with the Better Bottles. I really don't have a problem with heat conduction.
I've never used one. I probably should use one.
Yeah, I never would have, but let's see, I called him Dave. No, I don't know the guy's name. I can't remember. Poor guy in Australia who sent me 8 Better Bottles in order to get me to try Better Bottles. I can't remember his name. But he was like, just give him a try. I said, well, I need like 10 of them before I'll give him a try because
you want to do side-by-sides.
Carboys. I do a lot of side-by-sides. And I'm not going to just use one. And so he's like, well, 8 work? I'm like, yeah, sure. So he sent me 8. And, no, I've been trying them out. And, if I didn't like them, I'd just poo-poo them. There was no, measure of, give us a good review if I send you these. It was nothing. I wasn't beholden to them at all. And he sent them to me. He's like, I hope you like them. And I tried them, and I was, poo-pooing this and that, and I'm just like, the more I used them, the more I realized, it's actually a superior container to the Carboy. So I stopped using my Carboys, and it's not perfect. And, my biggest complaint is the size of them. If they were, a gallon larger, I'd be in heaven. And, I've complained to them, and the manufacturer's like, tough luck. But, that's still not going to stop me from using those. Those are still better than using a Carboy. So, to each his own. I think, plastic buckets are good if you get rid of them often. And I think, glass Carboys are good if you're very careful about breakage and, other things.
Yep.
But, I think, Better Bottles are good too. All right, so let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get to more of your questions after this.
My brewing brothers and sisters, you can make this Valentine's Day one that you'll both never forget with this amazing offer from adamandeve.com. Through Valentine's Day, you'll receive 50% off just about any item. Just go to adamandeve.com and you'll find over 18,000 adult entertainment products, including toys, lingerie, and a seemingly endless selection of adult DVDs. And there's more. With every order, you'll receive our romance kit free. Our romance kit includes a toy for him, a special massager for her, and a little something we know you'll both enjoy. Plus a free adult DVD to put you in the mood. And that's not all. Oh no, we also throw in free shipping on your entire order. So check out adamandeve.com today for this special Valentine's offer, good through Friday, February 14th only. Get 50% off one item, a free romance kit, and free shipping when you enter offer code CYBI. That's, can you brew it, CYBI, at adamandeve.com.
When you hear Blickman Engineering, think innovation, passion, quality, and customer service. Blickman gear is designed by brewers to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon. Keep up with the latest from Blickman at blickmanengineering.com and stay on the cutting edge.
Hey, BN Army, you think you're badass? Well, you are, kind of. Like badass, but without the balls to blow something up. HopTech in patriotic Dublin, California recognizes your nearly badassness with a BN Army discount on every order. But there's something those boys and girls in the real Army should know. If you have an APO address or a scan of an active PX card, HopTech salutes you as an actual badass and offers their thanks with a 15% discount on every purchase. That's the HopTech way of saying thanks to all active military personnel. 15% off ingredients, kits, equipment, as well as games, books, gifts, and more, all at HopTech.com. Whichever Army you're a member of, any branch of the military, or the BN Army, HopTech in Dublin says thank you with great discounts. Call 800-DRY-HOPS. Visit the store in Dublin, California, or go to HopTech.com. HopTech, serving homebrewers for 28 years.
Nico, listen, our lawyers said that we had to do this for 1 hour, and after this, we don't have to talk to each other for 3 more months to the next meeting.
Kids, come on, let's get out of here.
I'm supposed to have more lines. I'm the professional. Hey, it's Sully.
And I'm Nico.
And we opened the 21st Amendment 10 years ago at 563 2nd Street in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park, to make great beer and have a great time doing it.
That's right, because to us, the 21st Amendment is more than just the right to make beer. It's the right to experiment, to be innovative, and just do things differently. And so now, we're putting our craft beer in cans.
That's right, cans. You can find our world-famous Hell or High Watermelon Wheat Beer at Brew for Your Die IPA in the Northeast, Northwest, parts of the Midwest, and Alaska in cans and on draft. So next time you're at your local neighborhood pub or good beer store, be sure to ask for 21st Amendment in cans.
Because everyone likes it in a can.
Tasty crack cans.
Tasty crack can.
Okay, so my double IPA has an ABV of 7.5 and a clarity of brilliant, so that's a +8. I pour it.
Sorry, looks like she found it unpalatable.
Ha! Shut up, Doug.
My creek gets a +10 versus girls because it's a fruit beer.
You can't open the bottle, and she walks over to the guy with the Pinot Grigio.
This sucks.
Oh, I hate it when Greg's the brewmaster.
What's this? Non-Alcoholics Anonymous?
Dude, get out of here. We're in the middle of a brew session.
Is that an actual beer?
Yeah, I crafted it. I don't really use the dice anymore. I'm a 10th level beer nerd.
Are you a 10th level beer nerd? Have you ever been called upon to explain why it's named India Pale Ale? Do you burp Y Yeast 3522 and crap Cascade? Then you're in good company at Northern Brewer. Northern Brewer has all your beer nerd needs, ingredients, equipment, and knowledge 24 hours a day at northernbrewer.com. Plus, fast, cheap shipping, only $7.99 for the contiguous USA. And check out Northern Brewer's huge selection of dorky beer kits, including the Tongue Splitter.
I've got dry hop stuck in my braces.
And the Bourbon Barrel Porter.
Now on tap in the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Make 10th level at northernbrewer.com.
Sheila, what's it feel like?
Take awesome and multiply it by 2.
Spraying live beer radio all over your face.
Can't get any better than this, baby.
It's the Brewing Network.
Back to your hosts, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. Putting the testicles in technical. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. Diving through pint number 20 and show number 4.
Yes.
More questions, JP, from the chat or from the email?
Yes, sir. More questions from the chat, actually.
The chat.
The chat. MLaw06 asks, when using a kettle to hop rocket to Therminator setup, is it okay to only do one pass to lock in the volatile hop aroma flavors without letting DMS reform in the hot wort that is sitting in the kettle? I'm using a pump, so it takes about 6 to 8 minutes. Are you familiar with the hop rocket Blickman?
Yeah.
Mix?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, you know, you really only need to worry about DMS if
didn't boil long enough.
Yeah, 100 minutes is considered 2.5 half-lives of DMS formation from SMM. So, if you're boiling 90 minutes, then all right, no big deal. If you're boiling 60 minutes, then yeah, big deal. So that's kind of what it settles down to, right, John?
Yeah.
If you've essentially volatilized all the SMM into the atmosphere and all that, you really don't have much of a problem going forward. But if you've left that behind and then you turn off the boil and then the heat subsides and you're not volatilizing it anymore, it's still forming into DMS comp precursors and all that, and you end up with a problem in your wort. So. Right. That 6 to 8 minutes could be problematic if you're not boiling long enough. So I guess the thing is, my opinion would be just boil longer.
Yeah, I think the amount, the scale of homebrewing it's going to keep the amount of DMS formed in that interval, small. I mean, it's not a lot of time compared to say a half hour, or longer trying to do 5 barrels, whirlpooling or something.
That's a good point. Commercially, they would rest a lot longer.
Yeah. So I think one pass homebrew scale, even 10, 15 gallon brew through the hop rocket and the chiller,
6 to 8 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Right.
As you say, you want to look at your ingredients. If you're brewing 100% Pilsner malt, and make sure you do the 90-minute boil.
Right.
If you're doing British Pale Ale malt, then you can do
60 minutes.
60 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. You should be fine.
Yep.
And, taste will tell you as you go forward.
Right.
Taste the beer. Provide that beer to a number of, taste experts, which are not necessarily BJCP experts, that understand... beer flavor and things like that, and DMS. And, if they don't indicate any problem, don't tell them, hey, do you taste DMS in this, and hand them a beer. Just hand them a beer and say, hey, what do you think of this beer? Give me an evaluation.
Right.
And, see what they say. If they go, oh, there's some DMS in this, then you have a DMS problem. If they don't say anything, then you may or may not have a DMS problem. But if people, without any prompting, say DMS, and that's definitely a problem. So, like John's saying, in the grand scale of things, just boil your Pils malt 90 minutes and the others 60, and you should be okay.
Yep.
All right. This one comes from Milo. He wants to know what a healthy lager yeast starter should taste like. He has 2 vials that had about a month left on them. He says, I pitched them into a 2-liter starter on Wednesday, 36 hours on the stir plate, cooled and decanted. I've repitched them onto another 2-liter starter and tasted the spent starter. It's definitely yeasty bitter, but maybe a touch tart as well. I've never had any other slightly sour starters. So what should a proper starter, healthy starter taste like? Because I know both of you guys have talked about that, is taste your yeast, taste everything. But what are they really looking for?
I wouldn't expect sour.
Right. I'd say if it's tart or sour at all, then it's bad.
Tart, sour.
I mean, there's a couple of yeasts that will have, that will acidify the wort or the beer more than others. But, your general, they said lager yeast, I think, no, it shouldn't be. If your perception is tart, then it's probably got bacteria in it.
Yeah.
Lactobacillus pediococcus. Probably not Brett, although Brett could do it as well as Acetobacter, but probably not.
Yeah, I think in a starter with Brett, you'd taste phenols more than you would taste sour first.
All right, good to know. Nine-Toed Brewing. He asks, when formulating a recipe, where is one to start, assuming you've already picked the style? Do you start with an OG, SRM, IBU, base malt, yeast, etc.? I'm working on a house pale ale and have a general idea of what I want, but I'm curious about where to start.
Brewing classic styles. Where to start.
Yeah, that's kind of true. I tend to start, I guess, with OG. Like I'll say,
I start with base malt.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I start with OG just because I say I want to brew a 55, beer, 1055, and
you kind of look at it as a whole.
Yeah, and I say, okay,
what's going to make up that
beer, and then I say, okay, from there the base malt. That means the base malt's going to be, roughly 80% of that, and then I add in, then I think, okay, what flavors am I trying to generate? And then I'll add in a little bit of that, and a little bit of this, and a little bit of that, put it in the spreadsheet, and see what my OG comes out to. And it's like, okay, well, tweak. And that's how I drive it.
And I suppose the way, now that I think about it, is the way that I've been doing recipes all along is I kind of look at it as, all right, what specialty malts, first I start with what base malt. What is the base malt that provides the base flavor for this beer? Because that's your biggest decision right there.
Yeah.
Is it, like a domestic 2-row? Is it a Pilsner malt? Is it, whatever it might be. And I will, lay that down first. And then I'm like, okay, what other flavor malts do I need? Whatever specialty malts do I need? And then I will lay those in next. And I will say, well, it's going to be, this crystal or this special, this roast or whatever it might be. And I will lay those in percentages based on the amount of base malt that I've done. Compared to the base malt, what percentage do I need to do of each of these? Once I've done that, then I look at the thing as a whole, and then I think about these brewing applications is they allow you to say, okay, well, based on this concoction of malt, it's only looking at 1028, and I need to make it a 1064, then maybe I will, adjust it up, or, I'll just increase the base malt to get where I want. But you can dial it up and crank the whole thing up to get to where you want or down to where you want. Usually, I think, I start with, 7 or 8 pounds of base malt, and then my specialty malts, and I tend to be a little over, and then I'll dial down a little bit, and kind of monkey with the percentages and the total that way. But And it's important to me the ratio, what the base malt is, and the ratio of specialty malts is, and that kind of gives me a sense of what the beer is going to taste like, and then I can kind of adjust up and down as far as gravity goes to kind of get it within the target range, and then once I have that locked in, then I kind of do hops, and I say, well, for this beer, I'm going to need, this amount of bittering to really kind of balance it out. I'm going to need, these flavors. And I've got, all these other flavors. I'm going to need more aroma, or I'm going to need less, depending on style or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I do it roughly the same way.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Our very own Mike McDowell is in the chat room.
Tasty!
And he has a good question.
No, he doesn't.
That I think we talked about on the session about adding water. He goes, when adding deoxygenated and carbonated water to dilute my high gravity beer, should I also add some acid to the water to get it to line up better with the pH of the beer?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, it seems like a really hard thing to try to do, right?
Well,
I mean, because you're adding a little bit of water.
Depends on the water, though, and the percentage of the water. I would kind of agree that, in a way, I think the ideal thing to add is distilled water.
Yeah.
Where you're just changing, the volume, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, if you're adding a tap water with a hard, mineral content, that's
a lot
not
of bicarbonate.
Yeah, that's not really the case here, where you're getting this, snow melt through East Bay mud. But if you were looking at something like that, I would try and either boil the water or something like that to, degas it and all that, and knock out some of those temporary, carbonates and things like that. But I wouldn't be adverse to, tweaking the pH a little bit to match your beer, because I think that's a great question. I think if you're going to, because otherwise you're changing the pH of the beer.
Yeah.
Depends on how much water you're adding, of course. If it's a small amount, then just do it and don't worry. Otherwise, add distilled and you're probably closer. And if you're not going to add distilled, then maybe tweak the pH a tiny bit.
Well, yeah,
and try and match up.
This kind of comes back to a lot of the water chemistry questions I've gotten in the past, where people say, "Okay, my water pH is 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
Should I adjust this with acid down to 5 to match my beer, because that's the mash pH I want?" And it's like, no, you don't want to, because depending on the buffering capability of that water, the chemistry of that water, is that the mash or the beer pH and the everything that's driving the pH of the beer would probably totally overwhelm the buffering capacity of the water.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can take it from 8.5 and it'll drop right in. You may, by diluting with that water, you may end up changing the pH from 5 to 5.2. But if you were to try to acidify it, now that acidification is going to enter into the equation, and you may end up driving your overall beer pH 2 points, 0.2 lower than what it was, because the mash chemistry or the beer chemistry was enough to bring the pH down from 8.5 to 5, but this acid that you've added to do the job now is going to drive the pH even lower in the beer. So, depending on the water chemistry that you're diluting with, if you're adding deionized or distilled, then you're not adding any more chemistry to that mix, and you're just going to dilute, and the pH of the system is going to dominate.
But if you are talking about a finite amount of water,
mm-hmm.
and if you adjust that pH to where it's balanced out, where if you wait and really let's say overnight, you're sure that pH is that pH, and you add that to your beer, I don't see how that would affect the beer, because the volume of that water that you're adding, that's already a balanced pH of, whatever it might be. It's not going to, the acid's not going to be, let's say you take a 8% or a pH 8 beer or water, and you drive that down to 4 or 4.5, whatever your beer might be.
Mm-hmm.
If it settles out at that, I can agree. If you drop in a bunch of acid and it's bouncing around, but if you wait overnight and you get a 4.5 pH that matches your beer, and then add it to the beer, I don't see how it would change the beer itself, because that volume of water is there with its. Are you saying that what I'd have happen is it's going to drive that beer further down? Because isn't the buffering capacity of that water, isn't that like a fixed thing, and the acid a fixed thing? And
yeah,
I mean you're locked in.
So
24 hours later,
mm-hmm.
it's not going to go any further. And then you add it to your beer. You're transferring over the buffering capacity of the water plus the acidification capacity of the acids.
Yeah, but I think you
can be consistent.
But I think you can end up with secondary or even tertiary chemical reactions going on due to the constituents that you've added to the water that could change the chemistry. I guess maybe I need to bow out and say we should get a chemist in here to really address the question.
Huh? Because I wouldn't think that would be the case. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is the acids that were added, they've acted on the composition of the water and have caused the pH to drop to a certain level, and it's stabilized.
Yeah.
But then in a given beer, there may be other reactions with the residual acidity that causes a further shift, unpredicted, through a chemical reaction.
That's essentially what I'm saying, but I may be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I
think if we look again at the top end where we say you've got 2 gallons of water that's at 8.5 pH, and you're adding enough acid to bring that down to 4, that could be a very small amount of acid to require to do that, unless that's a highly, highly alkaline water.
Right.
Then maybe I'm my position is a little too extreme. I mean, the effect won't be that great.
Okay.
You may be closer to the truth with it will essentially.
So when you add acids to these this water, does it bind with the mineral components, the salt components, and cause it to drop out, or cause it to change, or is it you're just measuring the free hydrogen in the?
You're measuring the free hydroxides, the OHs, when you measure pH. In the case, phosphoric acid is a good case, because when you add phosphoric acid to beer or to the mash, now you've got calcium phosphate, which is partially soluble,
right, or
partially insoluble is a better way to look at it. So now you end up taking out a chunk of calcium out of the chemistry of that solution, and you end up changing the pH. I mean, if you're sitting there and measuring the pH change as you add acid, okay, then you know what the final pH of that solution is.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to predict it and say, I'm adding, half a mole of hydrogen in this acid, well, that is going to be half a mole of hydrogen, but then there's this calcium phosphate reaction going on that is changing that chemistry further.
Right.
If you're adding a simple acid such as hydrochloric, well, chlorides are always soluble, so they're not going to change. When you add that acid, that's not going to change the chemistry of the solution at all. They're just going to be free hydrogens from free chlorides. Same thing with let's see, sulfuric, I guess, but other simple acids. Lactic acid, I'm not aware of it reacting with anything organically. So that may be a more straightforward thing. But phosphoric in particular, there's the whole calcium phosphate system to consider. Mm-hmm. And I'm not enough of a chemist to predict what's going to happen.
Right. So I guess the thing is, getting back to the question, should he adjust the pH? And you're saying no, or maybe a little bit?
Maybe a little bit.
Right. Depends on the water.
Yeah.
If your water's close to distilled, which I think, in the East Bay in the Bay Area of the, California, if it's close to it, then just go ahead. But, would you be better off using distilled?
I think you'd be better off using distilled.
And then you really have no worries because it's just changing volume. It's although I guess your acidity would change with that too, right?
Yeah,
because your volume changes.
Yeah, the overall concentration will change.
All right,
and you're gonna change the calcium, not the calcium, the chloride sulfate ratio. You're going to change your residual alkalinity a little bit.
Although it's even, it's just volume. Yeah. Everything's distributed across the same volume,
right?
Or initially whatever your volume is, everything's evenly distributed unless something is dependent on volume for its chemical solubility. Then adding distilled is not going to change it. But if it's dependent upon concentration to really, solubility, then of course that's an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know if we answered that question, but we kind of dove into it. Maybe there's a good chance for experimentation there. But
yeah.
Excellent question, Tasty. Thanks, brother. I think maybe we ought to get together and discuss it more over a pint of beer. All right. Let's take a short break, and when we get back, we'll have more of your questions after this.
Since 1921, Muntons has been a provider of quality malted grain and extract.
What did he just say? What did he say?
That's 90 years of locally sourced grain for home brewers and professional brewers alike. All farmed within 50 miles of our malt houses.
What? I can't understand what this is. The last part.
Whole and crushed malts, including wheat and peated malt, liquid extract, hopped and unhopped, as well as dried malt extract. Everything from beginner home brewer kits to all the ingredients an advanced home brewer needs.
Something about trains? What language is this guy speaking? He's from Austria.
Muntons is proudly serving brewers in 54 countries and honoured to be a leader in malting.
Can you understand this guy? No. That's a really weird language.
Ask for Muntons malt and malt extract at your local home brew shop.
Muntons, for brewing, distilling, and baking. Quality malted grain and extract for 90 years. Make your malt Muntons.
When I order a beer, I want my server to know more about it than I do. I want someone who enjoys good beer and loves helping others enjoy it too. I want someone who knows how to pour a perfect pint for every beer style. I want a Cicerone.
The Cicerone Certification Program is creating the type of people who help you enjoy great beer. Home brewers and craft beer lovers know beer is more flavorful and complex than ever, and it takes some serious knowledge to store and serve beer right. Cicerones know beer. There are 3 levels in the Cicerone program: Certified Beer Server, Certified Cicerone, and Master Cicerone. Cicerones are truly the sommeliers of beer. The best beer locations have a Certified Cicerone on staff. Relaxed and unpretentious. Cicerones are tested on storing and serving beer, beer styles, flavor and tasting, the brewing process and ingredients, and pairing food with beer. Learn more about your next beer guide at Cicerone.org. Certified Cicerone, because it takes top talent to present a perfect pint.
Hi, this is Push from the Brewing Network, and I want to tell you about the Brewmaster's Warehouse and how you can get 10% off your next order. I'm a pretty techie guy, but I've never seen an online store like this. It's awesome. Go to brewmasterswarehouse.com and click on Brew Builder. You can whip up a custom recipe so easily even Sven could do it. Seriously, it's slick. You can share your recipe with your own logo and notes to the Brewmasters database if you want. And the best part, it keeps a running tally of the beer you're building while you're doing it. Then, bam, click Buy Recipe, and your cart is filled and ready to go with helpful suggestions in case you forgot something. This thing is amazing. Brewmasters Warehouse is run the way a home brewer would do it, with great service, fast turnaround, and $6.99 flat rate shipping. Brewmaster's Warehouse and the Brew Builder blew me away. Check it out today at brewmasterswarehouse.com. I'm serious. And don't forget to put BNARMY in the discount code box for 10% off your order. Check out brewmasterswarehouse.com. Cheers.
Do you support the Brewing Network? Do you brew your own? Are you looking for an economical, fun, and legal way to do both? Subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine and do just that. All year long, Brew Your Own will surprise you, entertain you, and educate you with articles on beer and brewing from authors like the Brewing Network's very own Jamel Zalashev and John Palmer. Each issue is a full pint of brewing techniques, homebrew stories, tips and photos, projects to make yourself, and recipes for the avid home brewer. Get your tough questions answered by Mr. Wizard and polish your style accuracy with Jamel. A portion of every subscription goes to the Brewing Network, so subscribe today at byo.com/Brewing Network, or just click the BYO logo on the Brewing Network homepage and support a fantastic hobby and your favorite broadcaster. Brew Your Own, the how-to homebrew beer magazine.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew strong.
All right, we're back. We're doing Q&A. We're knocking through all your questions that you send into brewstrong at thebrewingnetwork.com. Don't forget to check out the Brewing Network store. That's right. How you support this programming and make sure that what we do keeps going on. So if you like this, Brewing Network, thebrewingnetwork.com/store, check out all the goodies there. Lots of books. They'll be signed by Monsieur Palmer and myself. We got books in there, and lots of cool shirts. He and I wear these things. I tell you,
that's right.
I see people at events, and they're wearing like a Brewing Network shirt. Hop Grenade. The Hop Grenade's really cool. The Brew Strong, really cool. All this stuff, and I see them. I'm like, hey, nice shirt. It's like brother. Nice to see you. So check it out. It really makes a difference, and I think you'll enjoy the products as well. All right, next question.
Okay, this is from Brian in Alaska. He writes, hey guys, I have made some of my own specialty malts over the past summer to use in my brews and really love the flavors and aroma I got out of them. It's a subject I don't hear much about, and I was wondering if you had done any of this yourselves and what your results may have been. The problem I'm seeing is being able to tell when I have toasted my grain to the level of Vienna malt or Victory malt and anything in between, or is it Crystal 60 or Crystal 80, and being able to be consistent. Do you have any tips or advice for this subject?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
So basically how to hit your malts to what you need, or is it just like a one thing and that's it?
I think if you do it enough, you'll gain confidence. But without the tricky thing on this is he probably doesn't have all these specialty malts available to him
to taste, to try.
And that's why, if you had them available, you'd go ahead and do your batch and see, all right, I'm going to do 30 minutes at 350 degrees, and I'll wait a week or two, and then I'll taste them in comparison. I'll do a steep and taste the resulting liquid, and those are the same. Oh no, I'm way off, and you'd adjust by that. That's if you have those malts available to. If you don't have those malts available to, I don't think you really can. Yeah. I think all you can do is say, this is Joe's malt at 350 degrees for 30 minutes, and when I use that in my porter, that's delicious. Or
I'm looking for a little bit more of this.
I'm looking for a little more of this, a little more coffee, a little more chocolate, or a little less, or, a little more bready, a little more toasty. And you just use your own measure, and who cares whether it's matching some other malt. If you really want to match those other malts and match those other recipes, then I would suggest, sourcing it from, one of our sponsors, like, More Beer or Northern Brewer, or your local homebrew supply shop if they can, and and go ahead and doing that and see what those beers turn out like, and then do your own and see how close you can come, or make something even better.
Yeah, but unless you've got the spectrophotometer to measure color,
right,
it's pretty hard to identify
and
where
even
you are.
Color is not necessarily a indicator of what the flavor's like, because you can develop the same color at a lower temperature for a longer time as you can at a higher temperature for a shorter time.
Mhm.
And those are going to develop, completely different flavors.
That's right.
So, you're kind of stuck there. You can ask the maltsters to kind of give you some guidance, but what I would rely on is your taste and your flavor and what you think is making the best beer. I mean, that's really all that matters.
Yeah. There is a good book out there called On Malts and Malting, which really will walk you through how the various malts are made. Not a specific recipe, but a very thorough guideline as to how that type of malt's made, whether it's Munich or roast or whatever.
Excellent. Here is another question that was sent to us at Brewstrong at thebrewingnetwork.com from Jed. Jed says, hello. Hi, Jed.
Hey, Jed.
I have a question regarding crash cooling in the primary-secondary fermenter. I use an S-curve airlock during crashing, which prevents star sand from getting pulled in. But I was wondering if the air that gets pulled in during cooling has a large effect on stability and or oxidation. I only crash in the fermenter for about 5 days before moving to the keg and purging with CO2.
See, my preference is to go ahead and transfer to the keg and do it there.
Mm-hmm.
And you avoid this problem altogether. The amount of how much oxidation that forms, it does form some oxidation, and it accelerates staling.
Yeah,
absolutely. If you're going to drink the beer quickly, then I think it's no big deal. But if you plan on storing that beer for a long time and developing something over time, then I think it's a bad idea. So,
great.
It's me. I'm not sure it's... What do you think, John?
I agree. I mean,
it's a small amount of oxygen, but every molecule.
Yeah, all the lagers I've been doing in the last 5 years have been kind of in the primary and then lager in a keg.
Right.
So
yeah, if you're lowering temperature, I would throw it in a keg first so you can flush it with CO2.
Yeah,
that's my take.
This one is about aging a beer in a bourbon barrel. Excuse me. Drew. Right, hey guys, I enjoy the series on high gravity and wood aged beer, but I have a question that I don't think the show's addressed. I'm working on a Scotch ale that I plan to eventually age in a 10-liter barrel that is currently filled with bourbon. I plan to empty the bourbon and fill the barrel with a Scotch ale. From what I picked up listening to the shows, I may not have to age the beer very long because the barrel isn't that big. So I'm thinking about a week. Is that right? I also bottle condition all my beers. With this recipe, would I bottle condition the beer after I've had it in the barrel? If not, how would I recreate bottle conditioning without actually bottle conditioning?
First off, if you just empty that barrel of bourbon and throw beer in, it's going to taste like bourbon.
Yeah.
It's going to be,
within an hour.
Big time bourbon. Yeah, you just put it in and then take it out. It's going to taste like bourbon. It's not going to taste like a lot of wood. Wouldn't you say, JP? You've done a lot of wood aging of beers.
I have. And only one barrel. Recently did a barrel. Yeah, it depends on the size. Did he actually say the size?
10 liter?
10 liter.
10 liter. What is that?
2.5 gallons.
Yeah, that's really small. I mean, I would just leave it in there for a week and taste it.
Yeah.
I think with a barrel that small, you should really be trying some.
But if it's full of bourbon now,
if it's full of bourbon,
it's just going to taste like bourbon. It's not going to taste like anything other than bourbon.
Oh yeah. Maybe what do you think? Empty it and then just rinse it.
Yeah,
with hot water. Just try to get
water.
some of that bourbon out because, especially with a 10-liter barrel and that just had bourbon in it. Yeah, I think it's
going to taste like nothing but bourbon.
No, yeah. So,
which is it's fine. Run some beers through it.
Definitely run some beers through it. I mean, you might actually pull it out and maybe have to put some oak chips or oak cubes on it to get more oak flavor because I think that bourbon's going to come straight through, and maybe you won't have enough time to pick up any oak character.
Yeah.
I don't know.
For bottle conditioning, he's probably going to want to Kreuzen, take another batch for fermenting and add it to it.
Right. I mean, you could go ahead and kick new yeast in there. You're looking at 1 billion cells per liter of beer of yeast. If you do that, then you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here's a question from one of our Aussie listeners, BB Billy. He says, "Hey, Jameel and John. I did my first low-gravity, no-sparge on Friday night, Jameel Scottish 70. I have a 55-liter or 14.5-gallon cooler, so a typical low-gravity single batch has too little strike water to work effectively in my system. I followed John's no-sparge calculation in How to Brew, the long way, and hit my numbers just like magic. I can follow the math, but I don't understand why the scale-up factor works. I can see that you are determining the ratio of pre-boil to pre-boil less water retained by the absorption of the grain.
Mm-hmm.
I'd appreciate it if you could delve a little into why this works. Thanks for all that you do in the brewing world."
Oh, you're welcome. Boy, let's see.
That's a good one, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's
The guy obviously has thought this through and
Yeah.
has done his work, and it's not like I'm too lazy to do anything. It's like I've worked through all the numbers now.
explain what I'm doing. Yeah, boy, it's been that's been an awful long time since I've looked at those calculations.
It's all on you, brother.
Yeah. The original calculations came from Ken Schwartz, and I'm trying to the scale up factor. I believe that was something I never really derived for myself. Worked it through to figure out what that meant. The basic premise of batch sparging and no sparge brewing is that you're taking the initial runnings and calculating how much is going to be retained by the grain as you drain the the grain bed, and so that's going to be that amount of liquids can be retained. If you're batch sparging, then that amount of liquor that's retained is now going to be diluted by your second or third sparge runnings. But in no sparge, it comes out to your extraction efficiency diluted about by the total amount of water, and then how much is retained in the grain bed. I think the concentration factor is a part of that, but I don't have the equations in front of me at the moment, so I'm not going to be much help. Tell you what, if you forward that email to me at my home address, I'll pull out the book and work through it and see if I can get you a better answer.
Oh, come on, man.
Sorry.
All right. Well, that's in the Brew Strong at thebrewingnetwork.com email queue.
That's true. I do have it at home. So.
Right. So you already have it.
I have it, yes.
Here. Hand us this sheet of paper here.
Okay.
Last question.
Last question, this one.
All right. Here.
There you are.
Answer that one.
Forwarded.
Oh, okay.
It's been forwarded.
Analog forward.
And we got on the video camera that...
Yep.
All right. Palmer has it in his hand, and
Yep.
he will take care of that one. Because, I didn't understand a word of that answer.
Okay.
I'm the line here going, what? What? Of course, I've had...
2,500 beers.
2,500 beers.
Yeah,
We're in
yeah.
our fifth, sixth show? Yeah.
Eighth
absolutely.
show.
All
I'll
right.
get you an answer for that question.
Okay.
Great.
All right. He can do it. I have faith. All right. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up this Q&A session. Back after this.
When Blickman Engineering set out to design a great brewing stand, they knew it had to be strong, adaptable, and last for a lifetime. The top-tier brewing stand is now proudly available at BlickmanEngineering.com. It grows with your brewing skills and equipment. Start with 5-gallon coolers on its heavy-gauge stainless steel shelves. Then move all the way up to 30-gallon pots on the high-output burner tiers. Speaking of burners, the custom Blickman Engineering top-tier burners are extremely powerful, efficient, and amazingly quiet. They have safety stops to center your pot, and they'll last a lifetime and won't rust. The top-tier brewing stand allows virtually infinite combinations from traditional gravity systems to 2 tiers to completely horizontal. Configure your stand the way you want and have the freedom to change it at any time in the future. Your brewing stand should adapt with you, not force you to learn a new process. Visit BlickmanEngineering.com today to configure your top-tier brewing stand and to find a local Blickman retailer. You'll be surprised with all the flexible features and the competitive price. Start brewing with Blickman from the top tier.
Williams Brewing is your online resource for prompt delivery of quality home brewing supplies. Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients and the best customer service in the business. Cut hours off your brewing sessions by using one of our 11 varieties of famous Williams malt extract. Our Williams Belgian Pale Extract is mashed with pure Belgian two-row malt and a small percentage of Belgian wheat malt for an authentic Belgian character you just can't get from other extracts. Or check out our unique fermenters, 2.5-gallon kegs, paintball tank-based draft beer equipment, bottling aids, and much more. We even have our own line of precision hydrometers. Go to WilliamsBrewing.com to browse our vast selection. That's WilliamsBrewing.com. Orders placed by 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time ship the same day. Brewing is easy. The Williams way.
Homebrewers, is your best beer worth $1,000? Find out at Cass River Homebrew Club's upcoming competition, Homebrew at the Web. This is Homebrew at the Web's 4th year, and it's a BJCP sanctioned comp, pushing 600 entries. It's held in conjunction with the World Expo of Beers, Michigan's largest beer fest, with more than 10,000 visitors every year. Register February 6th through February 19th at crhbc.com. Judging is March 4th, 5th, and 6th at Sullivan's Black Forest Brew House. These guys are serious about your score sheets, too. Last year, they were returned within 24 hours. And don't miss a special presentation Saturday evening from Mr. Ninkasi, Gordon Strong. The Best of Show will be brewed by Sullivan's Black Forest Brew House. The Best of Show mead or cider receives a $500 gift certificate from Adventures in Homebrewing. And the Best of Show beer gets $1,000 at Northern Brewer. For more information, to enter, or to volunteer to help, visit crhbc.com. Cass River Homebrew Club thanks Midland Brewing Company in Midland, Michigan for their platinum sponsorship of this event. Midland Brewing Company, old-style lagers and ales brewed in America.
Downtown Joe's, located in the historic Oberon building in beautiful downtown Napa, California, offers an award-winning brew pub experience from 8:30 a.m. to 1 a.m. every day. For 15 years at the corner of 2nd and Main, Downtown Joe's has been voted Best Night Spot 7 times and Best Brew Pub for the last 4 years in a row. Brewmaster Colin Kaminsky's handcrafted ales, like his Tailwagon Amber Ale and Double Secret Probation IPA, are the perfect accent to riverside dining, live music, and a relaxing outdoor patio. Don't miss the Beer of the Month, special rotating taps, and the BN Army Member Special. Wear your BN gear, get 10% off your beer. Visit downtownjoes.com to make reservations, peruse their extensive calendar of events, or just read more about their fantastic beers. Come enjoy the fine beer, food, and music. Downtown Joe's, the award-winning brew pub where you'll feel at home.
This is www.thebrewingnetwork.com. Sit down next to it, grab yourself a paper towel, and watch those yeast have sex. You're listening to the Brewing Network.
Back to the two guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
All right. It's like 6.5 hours into the show.
We're just a little punchy.
So many pints, 25 pints of beer, 1/2 pint of water.
One Dr. Pepper.
One Dr. Pepper. We're ready to wrap it up. So we're just going to do a couple more questions. You know, if you have questions for the show, brewstrong at thebrewingnetwork.com. Go ahead and send those in there. We won't answer them immediately, but we'll go ahead and line those up with the show. You get an auto response. If you need something like, I'm going to die if I don't get this answer right away,
say so.
Send it to us, personally, and a week or two we'll get to those. We'll do our best.
Yeah.
We don't want your question to go unanswered. We don't want you to waste your time. So we respect that you've sent us the email, and we want to make sure we answer every single last frickin' one of them. So it's not wasted. We appreciate your participation in the show. All right, let's finish up here. 2 more questions.
All right, Trevor in San Francisco writes, "Hey guys.
Hey, guys.
Love the show and everything you're doing for the brewing community.
Love you.
I had a question about brewing a Hefeweizen in San Francisco. My apartment is 75 to 78 during the summer, and I really want to brew a Hefeweizen. From what I've read, I really need to be...
fall or winter.
Yeah, well, from what I've read, I really need to be around 68 for proper flavoring during ferment. I'm worried that I'll end up with offensive banana flavor if I do ferment at the 75 to 78 temp. What's the best way to solve this problem? I don't have a basement, and as you know, in San Francisco, space is limited. I've been toying with the idea of getting a small fridge, but not sure if this is the best solution. Thanks in advance, Trevor.
You know, those banana flavors and all the flavors are dependent on more than just temperature. One thing you could do is wait until winter and brew them then. It's a lot colder, or wait till summer. That's a lot colder in San Francisco. That's like the coldest on the planet is summer in San Francisco. But it's more than just temperature. So it's pitching rate as well. It's oxygen, it's nutrients, it's all these various things. And one of the things you can do to limit the banana character is actually reduce your pitching rate. So, scale back on your pitching rate, and that should actually limit the banana character, right, John?
Yeah.
That's one of the things, the odd things. Fermentation, produces certain esters, but, certain esters are also reduced by certain actions. So, while the yeast is growing, certain esters are not produced. It actually limits production of certain esters by tying up, certain processes. So, you can mess around with your, your pitching rate and your oxygen, and that should have a pretty good effect on it. The other thing you can do is, of course, get yourself a little fridge and a controller, and there you go. You can ferment it any time of the year.
That was one of his suggestions. That's
right.
what he should do. It sounds like if you want to do it in the summertime,
right?
What
more
about this
important
idea?
is controlling temperature. I mean, you really should as a home brewer.
Yeah. What about, say, mixing half and half Cal Ale with that yeast?
there you go. That's your answer.
There you go.
If you know what he says, email Brew Strong at BrewNetwork.com.
I suppose that might work a little bit.
Well, see, the problem is, you may limit certain characters, but you're also going to limit other characters that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
What you're looking for is a certain balance of, the clove, the banana, and the other Hefeweizen character. And you pitch the Cal Ale yeast to limit one, but you're limiting the others that you're looking for that are already kind of subtle and you're really actually looking for. I would mess around more with pitching
control.
rates.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, just temperature control. Every home brewer should be buying temperature control. That is the difference between pro brewer and home brewer. For the most part, is temperature control.
Yeah.
So, get yourself a fridge for free and buy yourself a really nice controller that has anti-short cycle and things like that, and just spend the money on it. You'll be really happy. All right. Final question.
Final. This is from Jamie in the UK. Jamie, I guess, is his chat name.
Jamie.
Anyway, he says, I've recently discovered the BN and had to back-listen to every show over the last few weeks. He has a question about bottle conditioning high ABV beers. He says, I have a demijohn of double IPA I've been feeding DME and sugar to for the last couple of weeks. The alcohol content should be up at between 9 and 10%. The yeast was US 05, and it worked very well, finishing clean at 10-11. I've had it conditioning at 3 degrees Celsius. I don't know what for Fahrenheit that is. For the last week.
Yeah, it's like boiling.
Okay. I've had it conditioning at boiling, or 3 Celsius, for the last week, and it's cleared up nicely. US 05 can be a bit murky if you don't filter or fine it. If I bottle with the usual tablespoon of sugar per bottle, will there be any yeast left in suspension to carbonate? The other option, of course, is to add a bottling yeast, but would chucking fresh yeast into a 10% ABV alcohol not kill them before they got started?
Well, there's always yeast left unless you filter it out or really wait a long time. And he's waited how many weeks?
This was Sunday, November 1st.
From when he emailed it? Or
Yeah. I didn't hear the original question. Sorry, I just guessed.
How many weeks was it in the fermenter?
He just said last couple of weeks. He didn't really give a time of how.
A few weeks is not an issue, but the yeast will be totally stressed by being in there.
10%,
So counting on the yeast that are sitting there at 10% for 3 or 4 weeks. Those are in much worse shape than if you make yourself an active pitch. The thing is, like John mentioned earlier, krausening. If you can go ahead and make a starter up of an active yeast and then pitch that in, that has a much better chance of fully carbonating the beer than unhealthy yeast that has sat there for weeks under the alcohol strain. So, that's definitely the way you would go. Me, I'm lazy and I like consistency, so I go with kegging, and I just dial in whatever carbonation I want, and I'm done. I don't care about the yeast at that point.
Yeah, but I think for this beer, that alcohol, that length of time, probably krausening with a small amount of new yeast and priming sugar will get him the bottle conditioned beer he's looking for.
Excellent.
All right. Well, and I think another fine episode of Brew Strong.
Oh, I should hope so.
4 shows in, we're pretty much done. If you like this programming, make sure you check out our sponsor, BlickmanEngineering.com, Blickman with 2 N's. He's paying for this show, so you don't have to. Also, check out the Brewing Network. Lots of great stuff in the store. John is going to sign some How to Brew copies, some Brewing Classic Styles. I'm going to sign some yeast books. Yep. You pick those up, and a big portion of that sale goes right to the Brewing Network's bottom line and keeps this programming on the air. So if you enjoy it, go ahead and buy some stuff. Buy some shirts. Buy a shirt for your grandma. I've had on expert opinion that grandma will love it.
Yeah.
We'll sign shirts, too.
We'll sign shirts. We'll sign boobies. If you bring us the boobies, we'll sign them. Absolutely. And,
attached.
Attached, yeah. Yeah, don't cut them off. Then they're no good anymore. They have to be attached. Otherwise, they're, all of a sudden they spoil really fast. Check out the AHA, check out BYO, all good stuff and deserving of support. And always remember, I get the one piece of advice for you at the end of the show, and that is rock and roll, hoochie coo, Lordy mama, light my fuse. Brew strong.
Brew strong, everybody.